Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our next installment of the Springboard Get Pitched webinar series. My name is Lyle Martin, founder of Springboard Equity. We're also doing this in partnership with our Physician Capital Network. So thank you, everyone, for registering and being on board. Again, everyone who registered, we appreciate you being on today's call. Should you need to drop off early, or for those of you that get on late, you will receive a full replay of today's pitch event. So we appreciate that. A couple housekeeping notes before we get started. First is, next slide, we've got a quick legal disclaimer. These companies, Springboard has no vested interest or takes no insight or responsibility for the truthfulness or the indemnification of everything around that. So please note that. In addition, as the presenters are giving their pitch, as you'll see on the right-hand part of your screen, there is a chat room. Please enter your questions into that chat. We will compile those as we go. Each presenter will have 15 minutes to present their company and offering, followed by a 5-minute Q&A. And so please ask your questions accordingly into that chat box. Following today's pitch, each company will have a company listing with obviously further details, the information you're seeing today, as well as information regarding the investment offering onto springboardequity.com. So if you want further information, you can visit springboardequity.com. You can also, as you'll see in the Q&A, contact either myself directly, Lyle Martin at Springboard, or in the companies directly for additional information or diligence on your behalf. At this point, I'd like to introduce and turn it over to our first speaker today, the CEO of YoFi Wellness, Jeff Croy. Jeff, take it away.
Great. Thank you very much, Lyle. And I want to thank everybody that's on the webinar today for giving me some of your Thursday afternoon or Thursday evening, depending on where you happen to be. My name is Jeff Croy. I'm CEO of YoFi Wellness, and I look forward to spending the next 15 or 20 minutes with you. Next slide, please. So what YoFi does at a very high level, a 50,000-foot level, is that we make people healthier with video. And we do this with a responsive video streaming web application that features hundreds of classes in critical areas that we broadly describe as nutrition, physical activity, and resilience. Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, and I'll get into it, but it's really not. But the key to this whole thing is that video is critical. Next slide, please. And I like this slide a lot because it really does set up the story for why video is so critical. So if you focus on the column that talks about YouTube, you'll see that YouTube has increased their viewership by more than 50% a year, every single year for the last 3 years. Now, those are not cumulative numbers. Those are discrete annual growth rates. And it's pretty astounding because YouTube is not a startup. YouTube is a mature company. But if you scan your eyes far to the right, to the column that is labeled the New York Times, this is a story that you're all very familiar with. Over the same period of time, on a year-over-year basis, the New York Times has seen its subscriber base decline by more than 11% for each of those 3 years. So consumers demand video. Next slide, please. But this is what they get. And what I'm showing you is sort of a typical health and wellness portal page that's offered up. And this is a company that will not be named. This is just a typical example. But this is what we see in population healthcare environments that may have a lot of really good information inside of it, but it's often hidden beneath many different links and layers. And it's an application that is really most appropriate for a desktop environment, and the user really has to be motivated to engage in this content. And as you look at this image on the left-hand side of your screen, I would ask you to ask yourself, Does this inspire you? Does it motivate you? Because as I look at it, it doesn't inspire me and it doesn't motivate me. This is a text-oriented solution. It's not mobile friendly for today's consumers. And frankly, it's one size fits all, so it's not personal. And this represents what is really a broken application of technology. It doesn't work. Next slide, please. And YoFi has taken a very, very different approach. So what YoFi does is we provide hundreds of video on-demand classes in high-demand wellness categories such as yoga, fitness, nutrition, mindfulness, and healthy sleep. And we deliver it on a video streaming web app that can be used on any device, whether it's an iPhone, an Android, a Sony PlayStation, a web-enabled TV, a desktop, a laptop, a tablet. It doesn't matter. It goes with you where you are, when you want it, and anywhere in the world, anytime. So video is critical to what we do at YoFi, and we incorporate video into every aspect of our programming. Next slide, please. We also integrate all of the current popular wearable devices and third-party mobile apps. Things like Fitbit, Garmin, Apple Health, iWatch, Jawbone, you name it. We bring all of these into the YoFi ecosystem. So as you see more and more people wearing these devices and using them to manage their own health and wellness, they can do it on the YoFi application, and it becomes really a holistic ecosystem for personal health and wellness. The way it works is on the right-hand side, you'll see what I call the virtuous circle. The user engages in a video class. That video class generates movement. That movement is picked up by the device or the mobile application, which provides data. That data might generate a reward or incentive or some other type of communication that leads to more engagement in the video classes. So it really does become a virtuous circle. Next slide, please. Before I talk about our team, I do want to mention there was a footnote on the last slide that the category of fitness wearables devices and fitness and health mobile applications is growing at 22% a year, and that's expected to continue to grow at that rate over the next 5 years or so. So it's a very high growth category, and it fits seamlessly into our suite of deliverables at YoFi. So this is our team, and we have spent the last 3 years developing a team that is really qualified and able to pull off not only an excellent execution of our business plan, but ultimately an exit that will make a lot of sense for everyone that's involved and everyone that's invested in YoFi. I'm the bald guy on the left. You can read about me, but as you scan across the entire page, you'll see that each person that's part of our team has a specific skill set to make YoFi an extremely successful company. Jeff Vaughn on the right-hand side is leading up our clinical applications division, and that's a division that places YoFi in the continuum of care for patient care and recovery post-treatment or post-hospitalization. That's an exciting direction for us. Our team has the business, program design, and technical acumen for success. We're successfully executing our business plan now, and we will have a successful exit. Next slide, please. A little bit about our background, where we got to where we are today, and where we'll be in the future. I do want to highlight that YoFi is a B2B2C company. So when you look at our profile on the Springboard Equity platform, I hope you'll go to some of the videos. There are a couple of really good interviews there that talk about how we distribute our product. But YoFi was selected as one of the 7 most promising health technology companies by HealthBox. And for those of you that know HealthBox, you know that it's an investor in promising early stage and startup health technology companies. We were part of HealthBox Florida, which was sponsored by Florida Blue Cross Blue Shield. Since that time, we've acquired quite an impressive list of clients. I want to highlight a couple of our clients because they really speak to how we can get into the marketplace. Comcast NBC Universal is our largest client. That's a client that is in all 50 states with about 150,000 employees. And indeed, they are global with operations in Europe and in Mexico and Latin America. We're very proud to have Comcast as a client. But as you scan down the page, you'll see highlighted also a company called Workplace Options. Some of you may know about Workplace Options as one of the most prominent population healthcare companies in the United States with approximately 60 million members. YoFi was honored to have been selected by Workplace Options recently to serve a population segment of about 2.5 million members, which took us over the million service population mark much faster than we thought we would be. So today we have a service population of about 2.6 million people. 2016 was a year for us where we really changed our sales model from a direct sales model to a channel partner model. Very successful year. I want to talk about 3 of those distribution opportunities for us. GuideWell Connect. GuideWell Connect is the affiliate of Florida Blue Cross Blue Shield that sells all of Florida Blue Cross Blue Shield services to other Blues plans around the country. There are 37 Blues plans, and they serve about 110 million members. GuideWell Connect has an exclusive agreement with YoFi to sell us to Blues plans, and we're very happy about that because it's already been very successful with an agreement with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee and their affiliate On Life Health. If you go down the page to Engage to Excel, Engage to Excel is a prominent employee recognition firm, and we are their exclusive wellness option. So for the 4 million workers that they represent, or 4 million employees, we are the wellness option that appears on the Engage to Excel portal. And if you go a little bit further down, you'll see a company called HealthPer. HealthPer is a large population health care company in Princeton, New Jersey, and they serve large corporate groups. We are integrated as a partner with HealthPer because they did not have what we have, which is video and data and programming surrounding video. And so we signed an agreement with them to work with them, and we get paid a fee to serve the client populations that they already serve and populations in the future. What's important about this slide is that we have current customers and we have great distribution, and we're ready to really rock for the next several years. Next slide, please. So a little bit about our market. This is a vast market, of course. Out of health plans and corporate wellness programs and population healthcare applications, there are about 272 million potential users. That's our total available market. But if we look at the marketplace that we're really trying to serve, or our total serviceable market, I break it down to about 75 million. So that's the 62 million users that are represented by large employer groups as well as health plan employer group applications that are in place currently with group health plans. So if you take YoFi's current available pricing and apply it to those numbers, our total available market revenue is $1.3 billion. But if we look specifically at our serviceable market, and if we only apply a 3% penetration, we're looking at $13.5 million. We'll be there, we think, very quickly, and I'll be able to show how that happens in a couple of slides. Next slide, please. About our competition. So if you think about our competition really globally at a high level, there is a lot of competition. People are trying to solve the population healthcare problem, or actually the healthcare cost curve in the United States in many different ways. When you think about our buyers, these are population sponsors, they are being offered solutions from many different people. The solutions that they're offering are all different, however. And so it's really competition for mind share and budget dollars. Where we compete is in the upper right-hand quadrant in the high-tech and the population space. And you might recognize some of those other names that are on there. But what's really important about this slide is that nobody on this slide specializes in video in the population healthcare space like YoFi does. Now, we talked about how consumers demand video. We deliver video. We wrap all of our programming around video, and that's what makes us very successful. Next slide, please. So we have a lot of competitive advantages at YoFi. I wish I had more time, but for the purposes of this presentation, I'd like to focus on just a few. You already know that we're video-centric, and that really is the appropriate form factor today. Everything that we do has video and data as our first two items of consideration. We've also built our solution to integrate with other platforms very easily. And I talked earlier about a couple of customers and a couple of distributors where integration is really important. So a customer that might be another population healthcare company, we have to be able to integrate into their portal. We've already built the most robust integration protocols available in technology today. They're ready to go, and we're using them currently. So we're easy to integrate. The third one I want to highlight is that we have a very robust channel and OEM sales strategy. 2016 was really a year that we focused on developing our channel strategy. And we've got some heavy hitters and some strong horses behind us now. On the OEM side, I call other population healthcare companies or other wellness companies OEMs, for lack of a better word. But they know that they can integrate our solution to help make them a stronger offering in the marketplace. And why is that important? That's extremely important for scalability, getting to scale quickly, and generating cash quickly. Next slide, please. So a little bit about our business model. It's actually quite simple. There's a setup fee, a service fee, a per member per month fee, and that's how we generate revenue. We operate on 3-year contracts currently. We're trying to move to 5-year. That's coming along. We've got very high gross margins. We're a high volume business. A typical company that's got, or a typical group that's got 10,000 members is worth about $162,000 over 3 years. Next slide, please. And this is our revenue model. So what I like to point out about this particular slide is that this was built on our actual pipeline. These are not sort of pie in the sky numbers. There's a spreadsheet behind it that has real customers and where we project them to go. And so the out years do have reasonable growth assumptions, but we believe we're going to be at about $12 million in about 5 years. Next slide, please. Our go-to-market strategy is really built around different channels. This is a good way to look at it. So with the health plans, we have the support of GuideWell Connect. They're selling us into all the Blues plans across the United States. An example of that is Blue Cross Blue Shield. We do sell direct to enterprise. Comcast is a great example of that. Our OEM channel, other wellness companies, population healthcare companies, companies like HealthPer and Workplace Options are great examples of that. Employee recognition or incentives companies, a big effort on our part, and we've got 2 of the biggest in the country. Engage to Excel is a great example there. And of course, brokers, where we have a great relationship with Willis Towers Watson, and Lockton, and other brokers. Next slide, please. So I want to just finish by talking a little bit about exit. We plan to exit within 5 years. YoFi is a natural strategic acquisition by a customer or a channel partner. The takeout value, according to S&P Capital IQ, currently is about 17, and in year 5, we're projecting EBITDA at $4.5 million. I want to draw your attention to the bottom of this slide with 3 recent transactions because I think that they're really telling. Recently, Jif Health was acquired by Castlight Health for $135 million. Jif Health had revenue of $7 million on the date of that acquisition. A little bit earlier in 2016, Walters Kluwer Health purchased ME Solutions for $170 million on $29 million of revenue. And of course, in 2014, I believe, or early 2015, United Health bought a nice company called Audax Health for what the industry estimates at more than $100 million. And at that time, Audax itself had great product but did not have any revenue. Next slide, please. So this raises $750,000. We are selling convertible notes, and I look forward to talking to each of you about the terms of those notes at a later time. But I want to not only let you see how we're going to spend that money, but I also want to draw your attention to the bottom because we're applying for a matching investment from an institutional investor for up to $300,000. So what that means is that every dollar that you invest in YoFi potentially will be twice the magnitude. And we really look forward to taking advantage of that multiplication as we go through this funding round. Next slide. Well, I want to thank you very much for your time and now open it up for questions.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. First question. Can you explain the relationship between YoFi, Florida Blue, and HealthBox?
Sure. So HealthBox is a venture investor and also an accelerator. And Florida Blue Cross Blue Shield, we call them Florida Blue, sponsored and continues to sponsor HealthBox in Florida. So we were funded by HealthBox Florida 1, of which Florida Blue was the sole limited partner. And HealthBox owns 7% of our company. HealthBox Florida 1 does. So beneficially, Florida Blue Cross Blue Shield does. We've been really lucky for that because we've developed a great relationship with GuideWell Connect. And obviously, that's paying off.
All right. Sorry about that. I was accidentally muted. Next question. Which markets, either like countries or geographies, are your sweet spot?
Currently, our sweet spots are any English-speaking companies or countries. However, we are going to be translating, voice-overing, doing additional languages on our video treatments moving forward. We do have 41 Spanish language yoga classes right now, and there is a large health plan in Spain that is licensing that content from us. But currently, it's primarily English. All of our print media or collateral we translate into Spanish for our clients.
All right, thank you. Next question. Besides population healthcare, are there other markets for YoFi?
That's a great question. I think I mentioned it in passing before, but we are launching YoFi Care and Recovery, which will be a division of YoFi Wellness. And that division will place YoFi in the continuum of patient care. We are seriously attacking the problem of hospital readmissions, and we believe that YoFi can reduce comorbidities that will put people back into hospital care. And for those of us that understand the economics behind that, hospital readmissions is a $50 billion a year problem. We believe that we can bend that cost curve and help with a lot of specific disease conditions, but also comorbidities. And we're looking forward to launching that in Q2 of 2017.
Okay, I think we have time for one or two more. I'm going to try to, this question's a little vague, so hopefully we'll see. This is, what areas are the videos focused on?
Okay, great question. Our content suite right now is yoga, fitness, nutrition, mindfulness, healthy sleep, and devices and third-party applications. Within each of those, there are a lot of different, I would say, variations, right? And all of the content is sortable by duration, by level of difficulty, or I would say rigor. And we use it in different ways, but those are the primary content categories. As part of this raise, we are taking those categories and reorganizing them into eat, move, and renew.
Okay, very good. At this point, we're gonna need to move to the next one. But however, you see right there on your slide, any more questions for Jeff, you can send an email to info@springboardequity.com. Just let them know that it's a question for YoFi, or even within the chat box here, if you want to say for YoFi, as we're wrapping up here, we'll make sure we consolidate those and get these rest of the questions to Jeff. So, Jeff, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Great presentation. Now let's transition to our next company and presenter. At this point, I'd like to introduce Rick Yorish. Rick is the founder and CEO of Extenders Group. So Rick, please take it away. Thank you.
Hello everybody. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the opportunity to present to you the Extenders Group. We're a fast-growing organization that provides quality and cost-effective healthcare solution to healthcare organizations. Next slide. This is a disclaimer, a safe harbor statement, which is common with these types of presentations. So you can go to the next slide. All right, so essentially, Extenders Group is a clinical service provider network consisting of nurse practitioners and physician assistants, and we do have some other non-physician providers. And we work collectively together and offer services to all types of healthcare organizations, including hospitals and ambulatory surgery centers and primary care physician offices, urgent care clinics, pretty much any company that utilizes or has the need for an advanced practice provider. And essentially, when we work with our clients, we offer two types of key value proposition. Depending on the type of the client, they either get a cost-saving solution as opposed to hiring their own, or they create a new revenue, or we help them create a new revenue stream based on the type of services that we provide and the utilization model that we adapt to an individual client. Next slide. Our core objectives, we have several, but I think the main reason why we exist is to create an operational efficiencies and cost savings for our clients. And we customize our solutions depending on the type of clients that we work with. Also, when we obtain a new client, we often offer them additional revenue generation solutions or expand their services or their practices by utilizing our providers, because traditionally we found that nurse practitioners and physician assistants are pretty diverse in their type of skills, and it's often a value-added proposition to our existing clients. In addition, we offer income opportunities and as a primary employment, or as an additional income for providers that already have a full-time job and they're just looking for an additional income. Next slide. We found that our company is in high demand, and it keeps on growing and growing, and it's driven by a macro trend, not only because there's a well-known out there that there's a shortage of primary care physicians and physicians itself, but because of the different type of the reimbursement models for healthcare companies, including physicians, the growing chronic care demand, we kind of find ourselves in a good niche where we offer those solutions to our clients. Next slide. This is a graph which kind of shows the split between the need for our services. Aging population is the main one, but our focus moving forward is not only to take care of the elderly population, but also the better adoption of the telemedicine and telehealth services arena. And also because of the Affordable Care Act, there's a greater need because of the higher population of being insured, and therefore it further grows the demand for healthcare services, and thus the non-physician providers demand as well. Next slide. As I said, when we work with a client, we found that generally they fall into one of two buckets or both. When they work with us, they either get a cost avoidance value where it costs them less to work with a group of our providers as opposed to hiring their own. That's a common question that I get. Or we help them generate new revenue streams just based on their current patient population. I can spend actually a lot of time on this particular slide, but in general, these are the types of services that we can provide. And currently, we are primarily working with physicians in a pure staffing model in their offices and in urgent care clinics. And also we work with in the hospitals in the surgical suites where we do first assist services and the perioperative services. However, over the past several years, we've built the platform where we can offer all of these additional value-added services, and I will touch on those in the next slides. Next one. A little bit of a history. We have grown, and over the past 4 years, we have doubled our top-line revenue. We finished last year approximately with 1.8 million in top-line revenue, and our current client database consists of over 160 physicians. We're providing services at 7 urgent care clinics, and there are several more in the pipeline where we are onboarding new providers to work at those facilities. We did launch a pilot with one particular client that wanted to do a post-operative and preoperative telehealth with particular focus on the post-operative care. There's a great value proposition for that. And we're currently in negotiation with a large accountable care organization to provide services with a focus in the post-acute care and the transitional care model. And then in about, say, a couple of weeks, we are launching a virtual urgent care in partnership with the physician where the patients will have access online if they have any urgent care need or a question, which would be 24 hours, 365 days a year. And our providers will be able to triage the patient, through the telemedicine platform and hopefully solve the issue. And if not, we will be able to refer that patient to a local facility, and in the worst case, we'll send them to the emergency room. In our provider database, we have over 650 providers in 29 states. That has grown dramatically. I think about 6 months ago, we had just over 100 providers, and in only 2 states. And so they're pre-boarded because we are Joint Commission accredited. Depending on their state and the regulation of the state, we follow those guidelines. In June of 2015, we received a Joint Commission accreditation, and we did so not only to get more credibility with our hospitals and the clients, but I also found that the Joint Commission also gave us additional credibility with the providers. So what I'm trying to say is when we have providers trying to join our organization, they do go through a vigorous background screening, and they cannot start practicing until they pass all the Joint Commission quality standards. We are currently in the process of getting accredited by the American Telemedicine Association. That's going well. We do expect it to receive it this year, and we target for second quarter of this year. And one of the reasons why we're looking for growth capital is because we project there's going to be significant uptick in client demand and service requests, particularly in the telehealth arena. Next slide. The nice thing about working with nurse practitioners and PAs is that we do have different types of revenue income streams. And traditionally, or historically, we were primarily focused on the surgical first assisting service, where we would provide the first assist, and then we would actually bill ourselves directly. PAs and nurse practitioners are reimbursed by Medicare and Blue Cross and third-party payers, even though at a lower rate than physician. But depending on the type of client that we work with, we are at no cost to the client, since we generate revenue directly from the insurance. But we also do get paid directly from our clients, usually in a pure staffing arena. However, our clients in that case choose to bill for our providers, collect that revenue stream, and then they just pay us a contractual rate. For this year, we have a lot of initiatives, and we see a pivoting going more away from the surgical first assisting arena, because it is very laborious, and it also somewhat unpredictable in terms of some of the payments because of the various patient insurance plans. And we see a much greater demand in the telehealth, and particularly chronic care management or post-acute care services. That partially driven because of the bundled payment models that's been implemented in the United States. And we also see an opportunity to provide like what I would call a concierge type model, where physicians or clinics or some of our other clients would pay us a subscription based to have access to our providers to either triage or treat their patient population. We're also in contact with an accountable care organization, and also reaching out to self-insured employers to be able to offer them on-demand 24 hours healthcare triage, where their employees can just log in either through the mobile app or through the online platform to have access to our providers. I do want to mention that our providers are multi-specialized. A large portion of them already have a full-time job, and they may work in the emergency room or perhaps in an urgent care center, and they're looking for, again, additional income opportunities. So we find a lot of synergies between the supply and the demand of our business. Next slide. There are a lot of value propositions. Again, I could talk probably a lot on this slide, but I'm just going to kind of mention the most common one and I think most important one. From the client's perspective, what we found historically that the greatest value we offer is the flexibility and consistency of the provider. When we get a client, it's not like they're going to have somebody walking through the door, they don't know who it is. We always strive for consistency. But yet be flexible enough where if our client, say a physician practice, wants to expand to a different facility or open a satellite office, we make it easy for them to transition that. We support their practice and almost in partnership type, where we help them grow, and depending on their need and whether they're in a hospital-based practice or even if they're in a distant location, again, we offer different flexible solutions. We really customize it to their particular practice. With a lot of clients that we've already been working with, once we added the telemedicine platform, quite a few of them expressed a great interest in implementing that for their own population. Again, that kind of falls into the bucket of additional revenue streams or revenue generation. And then on the reverse side, those clients that want to scale down or perhaps seasonal, they find a lot of value in working with the group because they don't pay for anything that where they're not generating a return on their investment. And for providers, historically, we work with so many. I think most of them really look for the flexibility as well. A lot of them would like to have a work and life balance. We have a large, I would say more than 50% of our providers, PAs, nurse practitioners, are women and in childbearing age, and they want to have a good balance between their life and work. And then, like I said, quite a few of them do have a full-time job, but they like to be efficient, and they're looking for additional income opportunities. And also, quite a few of them like the diversity. They don't like to be pinned to a specific specialty. So, for example, we do have people that work, in emergency room or urgent care, but they also would like to work in surgery or cover or doing some rounds at the hospital and have the exposure to different type of clinical setting. Next slide. Once we passed about 20 providers, we implemented a software technology to help us manage the logistics and credentialing of our providers. So we do work with a company called Proceris, and it does a lot more than just scheduling or logistics. Because we're highly regulated and Joint Commission accredited, we have to make sure that we abide by those rules and regulations. And because we are multi-specialized and work with so many different clinical settings, what the software does is help us match the availability of a provider with the right requirement of our client and making sure that they're credentialed at the facilities where they're being asked to perform services, and that they maintain their certifications and licensure, etc. And another thing that that Prosaris really does really well is helps us generate data in terms of individual provider productivity or a group of providers. And we do plan to make several acquisitions, either on sole proprietors or small groups that would benefit from being under the umbrella of the extenders group. And the software will give us data in terms of their productivity and efficiencies and the cost effectiveness of that acquisition. Next slide. Our growth strategy, basically moving this year, is to continue to target what I would say larger type of clients. We're still going to be always working with primary care and solo physicians, but we feel like we've built our platform enough where we can really target a larger, self-insured organizations or an accountable care organization. We have an initiative to go after or work with or partner with either urgent care or chain of urgent care clinics, particularly offering them telehealth solution or on-demand service for their patients. And the nice thing about that is, a lot of urgent care needs are after hours or on the weekends, and when the urgent care closes, patients often have no other choice but to go to an emergency room or wait and anxiously till the next day. And what we would be able to do is we'll be able to offer a link on the website of our client where the patient will be able to basically log in and be directed for a triage by our providers. The patient would still belong to that particular client or that particular practice or an urgent care, and hopefully we'll be able to solve the issue, maybe write a prescription and schedule a follow-up at that particular facility. And the way that we would get paid is really through the subscription model and perhaps per encounter. We are looking to hire additional sales team because we found that when we do our presentation of our services to a physician, it's very different than doing it for a hospital or a large organization. And because we're expanding into different states, we really like to have some boots on the ground in those particular high demand areas. Our immediate focus is going to be to work with our existing client base. As I said, there's over 160 physicians that we work with that have an interest. So we are planning to offer them those value-added services and then expand geographically into the populations. I would say in the mid-sized market, almost like the suburban towns, where we find there's a greater need than in very large metropolitan areas. On the provider side, of course, we can't have a group without the providers on board. So we are planning to market to the state and national professional associations for nurse practitioners and physician assistants, and also have a campaign to roll up or acquire individual providers or small groups because of the different value-added services and the platform that we have active to help either grow their own business and also be able to service our existing clients. Next slide. I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by a very competent and experienced management team. I'm a physician assistant by training, been one for about 20 years, and work primarily in surgery, which is how everything started. And then Nancy Borg is our Chief Operating Officer. She joined our company in March of last year. And Nancy brings over 25 years of healthcare experience, particularly on the hospital purchasing side. She founded one of the largest staffing companies in the country, and she's excellent. And I look forward to growing the company with her. And then Jackie Porth, I've known Jackie for quite a long time. Particularly, she's been managing a busy orthopedic practice, but she's also got a lot of other credentials, including being an attorney, which is nice to have a good experienced attorney on our team. And also she received a PhD in health policy. And she fits the role perfectly as a director of quality and telemedicine because she does understand more of the physician side of the practice, as opposed to Nancy is very good with hospital side, and I'm kind of the chief go-to person on the provider side. So it's a good combination. Next slide. So we're raising $1 million in equity round this time, again, primarily to build on the platform that we already have and offer value-added services to our clients, and with a particular focus on a telemedicine and telehealth triage. And we kind of put triage into the same bucket as doing pre and post-operative care, or working with those urgent care models, or direct-to-consumer, or with self-insured organizations where we would triage the patients or the employees of those organizations with ultimate value proposition of minimizing their healthcare expense costs. The minimum investment that we're looking for is $3,000. And in the full disclosure, we do plan to do a future raise after we get accredited by the expected accreditation by the American Telemedicine Association, and as we expand rapidly our provider database, we are expected to enhance or launch the provider marketplace and expand to additional states throughout the United States. Next round. This is just a general slide for the uses of capital. Our projections show we need about $500,000 in the working capital, and a lot of it has to do with just expanding in sales and support staff. We have plans to do some merger and acquisition, particularly acquire a small call center, which we feel would be very strategic for our initiatives as we expand the telemedicine and the call center and call triage model. We estimate it's going to cost us about $75,000 in the capital raise and the professional fees to really complete this round. And then we want to satisfy a note that's payable to a private lender to improve our balance sheet. Next slide. Again, these are the highlights. Last year we've finished the year approximately with 1.8 million in top line revenues. We project to do this year about 3 million, and a lot of it would really come more from working in a pure staffing play and the subscription-based model. And then we do expect to get accredited. So these numbers are based on sort of historical data. So we do expect a good uptick in 2018 and then build further in 2019 as we expand nationally our services. Next slide. So in the summary, I always believe that I'm pretty transparent kind of person, that the key to any success is the management team and the cohesiveness of the management team, which I'm most proud of. Everybody's very competent. All of us have experience in the healthcare industry, and each one of us has a unique experience or core competency in contributing to what we want to achieve ultimately. Of course, we are positioned in the right space because of the high demand for our services and to minimize healthcare overhead costs. I believe that in the group type of model, it's the most efficient and effective way to satisfy that need. So we do have a very loyal customer base that we've worked with for many years. Once we get a client, historically, we become very, quote, sticky because there's really no incentive to look anywhere else or even hire their own because we do provide cost efficiency. And on top of that, we offer additional, revenue generation. So we are very comfortable with our base. And once we acquire the client, we usually keep them. Next slide. This is my contact information. And you're welcome to contact me anytime, and I'll reply to your questions.
All right, thank you, Rick. As a reminder, for any questions, please just go ahead and type them into the chat box on the right-hand side. First question, we get this type of question quite a bit, but similar. Is Extenders Group essentially the same as, quote, Uber for healthcare, quote?
It's a common question because we offer sort of on-demand solution. The honest answer to that is yes and no. The yes part is similar to Uber. We are on demand, we're cost effective, and we're convenient. So, but the big difference from Uber is we're in the healthcare services, and that's a people business. I mean, there's there's some compatibility, and we are in a regulated environment. So I don't really like Uber comparison, because Uber usually, you need a ride from point A to point B, and you get there and you never see the driver again. As I've just recently said, once we perform a service at a new client, that we usually become very sticky, and we always strive for consistency for everyone's sake, including the patient's sake. So if the follow-ups are being scheduled, everybody likes to have a predictable type of service. Also, because we work with so many different clinical settings, they have different EMR systems and different protocols. So we always strive to make sure that when we do our scheduling and logistics, that the same provider is performing at the same location. So I can probably talk more about that, but maybe for later.
All right, great, thank you. Next question: How is Extenders Group different from other staffing companies?
The biggest differentiation, I would say, is traditionally staffing companies have a lot of them have term limits, and we don't. We certainly do staffing. I can't deny that. So we can be classified as a staffing company, but we do so much more than just staffing, because we can actually do our own clinical services as a clinical service providers. And we don't have any travel assignments. I think we're more focused on a kind of permanent type of a solution with the flexibility of the client. Even though we do get quite a bit of calls to do few months to fill in for somebody who might be pregnant or maybe on assignment somewhere, but that's actually a very small part of our overall revenue. So when historically we classify ourselves more as a clinical provider network as opposed to staffing, because of the long-term relationship that we have with our clients.
All right. Who are the current telemedicine groups that you are working with?
We're not working with any particular telemedicine group. We're working with our clients that have patients. And like I said, particularly we did a launch or a pilot with a surgeon that expressed an interest in having the patients be triaged post-surgery. And frankly, it's actually more patient-driven, I believe, than anything else, because patients find it very convenient, particularly those that had perhaps a minor surgery. It's a nuisance for them to take some time off from work or from home and spend some time traveling to the surgeon's office if they're doing just fine. So what we do is we connect. Of course, we have to have a consent, and there's some other rules that we have to go by, but we're able to connect with the patient through video platform and audio platform and answer any questions. And we can even take pictures of the incisions, etc., and take snapshots and create like a note, which we then send to the primary physician, to put in the patient's chart.
All right, and final question here. Do you have plans to work with physical therapists or acupuncturists?
Currently, we do not have plans like that, because, being frank with you, just the demand for nurse practitioners and PAs is anything short but explosive. So, however, with that said, I believe that after our next round, we have already been asked several times, particularly when we work with orthopedic practices, if we can provide them physical therapists, because there's a need for that. And I can tell you, I believe it would not be complicated to add those providers to our platform, because the platform is universal. We could add pretty much any provider in it. But our focus is still going to be on our traditional values, that services that we've been doing in the past, and where the greatest demand is.
All right, thank you, Rick. That's going to conclude today's pitch webinar. We will consolidate the rest of the questions if they did not get asked during the session, and our presenters will get back to you in the next 24 hours. Again, if you have additional questions, please direct them either to myself at info@springboardequity.com. Also, you can, again, look at each of the company's listing campaign on springboardequity.com. And at this point, that will conclude today's pitch event. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and have a good evening.